I think we can all agree that most of us have experienced some sort of haunting or paranormal activity in our lives. For some, it may have been an apparition, ghost, or even an encounter with something evil. But these next terrifying stories are not things that you want to hear at night before going to bed. These are scary tales revealed by those who experience them. So get ready to listen closely. Number 9. The Doll in the Attic. Growing up, I heard strange sounds in my attic late at night. When I was old enough to go into the attic, I discovered an old doll sitting in the only chair up there. I didn't know if it was my imagination or what, but every time I went up there, I could feel someone staring at me. There were also strange scratches all over the wooden floorboards right under the doll. The doll was always facing towards the door, no matter how many times I turned it around. I tried to ignore it because I thought that if I acknowledged it, it would be worse. One night my parents were out, and my brother and I were home alone. We were watching a movie in the living room when we both heard footsteps in the attic. We were scared, so we got away from the window and started screaming. Then we both ran to my parents' bedroom and hid under the bed until morning. My mom says she never believed in ghosts until that day. She woke up and said that she had never heard footsteps in the house, let alone coming from the attic. She said that it sounded like someone was walking right above our heads. That was the last time I ever heard footsteps in the attic. I still don't understand what it was. It just appeared one day and then vanished. Number 8. A haunting in the hospital. This happened a long time ago, when I was about 19 years old and working in a hospital pharmacy. One night after everyone had gone home, I was closing up when I heard the sound of footsteps near the back of the store. I thought it was strange because it was very quiet, and I knew that I was the only person left inside. I figured it was probably just a late-night janitor who was stocking up on paper towels or something. I continued doing what I was doing until I heard the footsteps again. They were definitely getting closer. I kept telling myself that it wasn't a big deal, and that it was just a person, but I couldn't help but feel really uneasy. I finished up what I was doing as quickly as possible, and started to make my way toward the front of the store. Just as I rounded the corner and saw the exit, I felt a cold breeze on the back of my neck. I turned around, and to my horror, standing directly behind me was a little girl in a Victorian nightgown. She had a blank expression on her face and was floating a few inches off the ground. Of course, I screamed and ran out of the store. I didn't look back. I just kept running until I got home. When I told my roommate what had happened, he didn't believe me at first, but then I convinced him to go check the security footage. We went to the security office and the lady there helped us pull up the footage from that night. On the screen, we watched as this little girl appeared out of nowhere and walked through the store. She was the same age as my daughter and looked similar to her. My daughter is now 4 and has never been in that hospital, yet she was born 2 years after that incident. No. 7. Terror at the beach. One summer evening, I was enjoying the beach with my friends. It was getting dark and my mom kept telling us to start heading home. Finally, we decided to call it a night. As we were leaving, I noticed that my best friend was missing. She usually walks with me, so I turned around to find her and called her name. I was very worried because she wouldn't go home without me. I found her lying on the sand with her eyes closed. I ran over and shook her, calling her name hysterically. When she didn't respond, I started performing mouth-to-nose resuscitation. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. My dad came over and took over, but it was too late. She was dead. Her head had filled with water and sand and she had lost her life. It was a really traumatic experience for me. And as you can imagine, I haven't been back to the beach since. Well, until recently, my boyfriend and I decided to take a trip to the coast. He wanted to show me the lighthouse, which I hadn't seen before. We parked our car and started walking along the shore, when suddenly, I got a terrible feeling. I started to panic and told him that I wanted to go home. He tried to calm me down, but I couldn't help it. I felt my best friend's presence everywhere. There was no escape. I could feel her hand gripping onto my leg, as if she was trying to drag me into the water. I started screaming and pulled away, but it was no use. She was too strong. Then I blacked out. When I woke up, I was lying on the sand with my boyfriend kneeling beside me. He was crying and told me that I had stopped breathing. I survived, but I still feel my friend's presence sometimes. 6. Unexpected guest. While I was working for a funeral home as a teenager, I picked up a call from a local hospice asking us to come pick up a patient. They had just passed away and the family wanted to be present during the transport. I arrived at the home and went inside to meet the family. They showed me where their loved one was lying and I started the transfer process. Everything was going well until we got to the car. I opened the back door and found that the deceased person was missing. I checked everywhere inside the house and even outside, but I couldn't find them anywhere. I called the police, and they conducted a full investigation, but they never found any evidence of foul play. I am convinced that the ghost of the woman I was supposed to pick up took her own life. That night, I dreamed that she was thanking me for helping her move on. Number 5. Uninvited presents. When I was younger, I used to babysit my neighbor's kids a lot. Their house was nice, and their neighborhood was good. I never had any problems. That was until one afternoon when I was watching the kids in the living room. I could have sworn that I saw the apparition of an emaciated old woman walk across the hallway. I told the kids to stay seated while I went to check it out. But when I returned, they told me that they saw it, too. The three of us spent the rest of the afternoon watching TV and trying to convince ourselves that we were just imagining things. Then the lights went out. We were sitting in the dark for about 30 minutes until the power came back on. But that's when things got really scary. The old woman appeared in front of me and motioned with her finger for me to follow her. I didn't know what to do, but I ended up following her into the kitchen. That's when I noticed that the kitchen cabinets were all open and the pantry door was wide open, revealing nothing but an empty shelf. No. Portrait of evil. When I was 20 years old, I worked in a psychiatric hospital. One day, while I was taking a patient for a walk, she asked me to take her to the basement. In the basement, there was a small museum with paintings done by the patients. As we walked past one of the portraits, the patient suddenly stopped. The painting was of a beautiful young woman with flowing hair, but there was something sinister about it that unsettled me. I told her that it was a pretty picture, and we should keep going, but she insisted on staying there for a bit. She explained that the woman in the painting had taken her own life and now haunts the basement. After about 15 minutes, we turned to leave, but that's when we heard a loud crash. We looked back to see that the glass covering the painting had shattered and the portrait was gone. We raced back to the museum to find the painting leaning against the wall, its glass case completely destroyed. To this day, I don't know what that painting was or why it did what it did. 3. Deadly lullaby. I was babysitting my niece and nephew while their parents were on a cruise. I had never met their parents, but they left instructions for me on how to care for the kids. One of the instructions was to sing my nephew a special lullaby before bed. I was confused, but I wrote down the lyrics and put it away until bedtime. When it was his bedtime, I tried to distract him with toys and games, but nothing worked. He kept crying uncontrollably. I felt terrible, so I sat him down and started singing the song. I don't remember what the words were, but they went something like this. Rock. A-bye. Baby on the bed. Mama's here now. So go ahead. Sleep. Mama's here now. No need to cry. Mama's here now. Mama won't say goodbye. I sang the song in the sweetest voice I could muster, but it wasn't doing much. Then suddenly the lights flickered and went out. I started screaming and ran out of the room. When I returned, the boy was gone. I searched the entire house, but I couldn't find him anywhere. I called the police, and they launched a massive manhunt. But before they arrived, the power came back on, and the boy was sitting in his bed fast asleep. I told the police everything that had happened, but they just gave me a strange look and told me to be more careful next time. They refused to believe that he had vanished into thin air. I swear that if I hear those lyrics being sung, I will freak out. No. 2. The boy in the mirror. This story happened when I was 8 years old. I had just gotten glasses and was really self-conscious about them. I remember wearing them for the first time to school and looking in the mirror. I could barely recognize myself. I didn't like the way I looked, so I took my glasses off and looked again. I noticed that the reflection was still there, but it was different. The figure in the mirror was me, but it didn't have glasses on. I told my mom about it, but she just laughed and said that it was silly. But that wasn't the end of it. It happened several more times. Every time I looked in the mirror without my glasses, it reflected me with my glasses on. It was driving me insane, so I decided to do an experiment. I removed my glasses and stared directly at the mirror. Then I made a funny face. When I looked back, my reflection was still making the same face, but it wasn't making fun of me. It was actually mimicking me. That's when I realized that it wasn't a ghost. It was my imagination. My subconscious self was creating a new identity for me. No. 1. A night of terror. One night, I woke up to a scratching noise. I lived in an old house and assumed that it was just a mouse or something. I went back to sleep and everything was fine until about 2 a.m. when the scratching started up again. I got out of bed to investigate, but I couldn't find anything. I was about to go back to bed when I noticed that my back door was slightly open. I closed it, locked it, and went back to bed. But 15 minutes later, it happened again. I got out of bed to find that the back door was wide open and my house was in complete disarray. Pictures had been ripped off the walls, and my furniture was overturned. I was terrified, so I called my friends for help. They came over and searched the house, but they couldn't find any signs of forced entry or intruders. We stayed up for the rest of the night, but nothing else happened. In the morning, I went to work and my friend stayed behind to clean up the mess. When I came home, she told me that she had found footprints in the mudroom, footprints that she hadn't seen the night before. Thanks for watching. Would you dare spend the night in any of these places? Let us know your thoughts below and be sure to hit the subscribe button for more videos.